got excited because it reminds me of working in Photoshop. I don't want to get caught in this whole, like, let me find the perfect prompt. I'd rather just design. I'm starting with characters and I'm isolating them so that I can work on them individually instead of trying to do both of them in one image. So this allows me to do things like character consistency between multiple characters and really have like an effect on it. One thing I could say for when you start doing batch processing, this piece right here, only provide the prompt, no additional context. This is saying how and what to prompt. And then this is saying down here, how to structure the prompt. So I'm basically giving it a prompt formula.
Do you have a preference for LLM?
For system prompting, ChatGPT 5, because it just listens.
Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another session by GenHQ. My name's Rory Keith, and today we have the absolute pleasure of being joined by Rory Flynn. Now, I've always regarded Rory as the top AI educator in the world. He's worked with companies like Meta and other billion-dollar corporations, like he's worked with companies like Shark Ninja and all of these amazing tech products. And he is the guy who goes in and provides AI's creative solutions to all of these companies. He builds marketing systems using Weavy AI and sells them as solutions to these companies. He's pretty much the #1 AI consultant across the world. This man's time is extremely valuable, and he's been brought into GenHQ to give you an exclusive deep dive into Weavy AI. Now, I would love to start bringing in Rory a little bit more so that we can do some more sessions, but in this one, he's going to teach you how you can build a system and actually start selling this as a service to a client. And this system that he teaches you is worth anywhere between $5,000 to $70,000 per time you can sell this to a client. I'm not kidding when I tell you that you can build this system and use it for yourself or share it within others in GenHQ, and it's genuinely going to be game changing for you creating marketing assets for your brand or business, or just anything in general when it comes to AI image or video production. Weavy is going to be a significant, player in the future of creative AI, and this is a very, very important deep dive. The first 10 to 15 minutes is us talking and chatting, where there's some great insights in there for you, and then after that, it gets followed up by him deep diving into Weavy AI, and this is one that you do not want to miss. Thank you and enjoy. So, hello everyone, welcome to today's session by GenHQ. Today we're joined by Rory Flynn. Now, Rory is an absolute top AI educator in the space, and he's worked with some awesome clients, and we were introduced actually by a mutual friend called Chris Branch, who was our first interview in GenHQ actually, and he is the co-founder of a company called Seedly. And yeah, do you want to kind of give an intro to yourself, the kind of people you're working with and what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, totally. Thanks, man. First off, thank you for the compliments. Appreciate that. No, it's awesome, dude. I've been following your stuff for a while, and I've always appreciated the level of craft that goes into it. So I know there's a good brain behind it. But I've been sort of like all over the place in terms of my background and experience. But recently, prior to AI, I was in the performance marketing world. So performance and retention and marketing, really like working on Facebook ads and email marketing. And with that comes a ton of volume. And we were operating an agency, probably around 90 clients at the time. And, we just sort of, I created my own problems. Let's put it that way. I sold in a lot more clients than I should have. And my employees hated me and my clients hated me. So, it's sort of on my shoulders to change that. And luckily, I think it was it was the first, I think it was whatever that was, like around Thanksgiving of 22, November 22, when ChatGPT first sort of popped on at the scene. And I was just like, what's this? How do we use this? Can we use this right now? And then that sort of led down the rabbit hole to Midjourney, which was, all right, if there's text, is there an image thing? And then we got into Midjourney and just started putting that to use right away. So Midjourney was the start. It is obviously expanded from there, really building and operationalizing these tools for systems at scale. So that sounds like a bunch of fancy buzzwords, but it's really like how we look into your business or anyone's business and find operational holes and then just make AI tools and AI workflows to sort of alleviate that stuff. So currently working with a bunch of fun clients at the moment. I did a lot of work for the performance marketing sector. Coming up until about, I'd say recently, they're still a big part of my client base, but, working with the biggest global campaign agencies in the world, some of the biggest, brands in the world, work with Meta a bunch, work with BarkBox, work with Shark Ninja, a bunch of clients at the current moment, but some probably won't want me to say that. Uh, but it's yeah, man. It's just really like coming from a designer's background as well, like further back in my past, just understand sort of like all the problems and stuff that goes on when you're trying to create stuff. Who has who has say, what levels of approval are needed, what pieces need to be controlled and nitpicked, right? So it's an easier way to start to build and think about workflows when you sort of have taken all the grenades in the trenches over the years. So I'm sure there's a lot
Yeah.
of people in here
Yeah.
that feel that way too.
Yeah, I'm sure you've taken many a grenade,
Oh yeah.
in your time, and I think like I also kind of came across your work through LinkedIn, and I think that's been like quite a big tool for you. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but in terms of like finding work and getting found by these big companies, do you think that's played a big impact, or how do you think you've kind of built those relationships with these clients?
100%. Like one thing I love about LinkedIn is that I don't have to. There's no like game playing. Like it's just like it's basically like a job interview every time you post, right? So like first off, it's all verified accounts, so there's no bots, so you're only getting real people. Maybe there's a bunch of automated comments from ChatGPT now, but prior to that, it was like let's just go where the meat is, right? Like if I'm going to do this, I might as well go for the heavy hitters right away. Try to get in there. So I would say
Hmm.
LinkedIn, if anyone's not doing that, I would heavily consider it because like the other thing I love about it is top of funnel content doesn't really work there. Like it does. Some people, don't get me wrong. Some people just, that's all they post. But like I've made a living off middle and bottom of funnel content. Just like, here's this thing, how to do it. Here's my process. It's essentially like someone's looking into my notebook every time they open a post.
Hmm.
And so you can see all the work. You can see me explain it. I post all the prompts and all the processes and everything. So you can go try it. And then like, if it works, like, I'm not bullshitting. Right. So I don't know if you're supposed
Hmm.
to curse up there or not. Um,
No, no, you can
but,
guess. Yeah.
but,
Mhm.
yeah, that's sort of how I've always, from a sales perspective, right? It's always been about transparency. Just like, can this stuff work? Can it be done? If you can't do it, like I'll be the first, if I can't do it, I'll be the first one to tell you. But I've always felt like that's lended itself really well on that platform specifically. X, I do whatever the hell I want. It's just
Mhm.
more of a
Yeah.
playground, just play around.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome. And I think like a lot of your explorations recently have been into Weavy. And today we're going to do like a real deep dive today on Weavy. So I think if I can say this, you've worked with some, billion-dollar corporations kind of going into their companies and showing them how they can use, systematic tools like Weavy to build sustainable workflows. Again, we're going to throw out a bunch of fucking buzzwords so that people
yes,
can, try and understand this. But we're going to kind of do a bit more of an advanced walkthrough, and potentially share some workflows that you've done in the past, and kind of break them down so people can understand them. Because I also want to kind of touch on the future of and importance of node-based editing. We've seen recently Adobe announce Project Graphs. Is something that they're working on. We've seen Weavy recently been acquired by Figma for $200 million. And I think a lot of people are now paying attention to this. And my biggest takeaway, Rory, from Adobe Max was that when Adobe announced Project Graphs, the room was silent because people are not ready for these node-based editors yet. You had all these people in this room who were like clapping their hands and whooping and cheering over like the Harmonize tool in Photoshop, which has been out for 4 months. And then when Project Graphs was shown, like they were just like, "What the hell is this?" Like they didn't get it, and it just shows that this is very much like ahead of its time. It leans very heavily into engineers because it creates like systematic processes that a lot of engineers are used to. And it's like this new way of it's almost like I think Free Pick also just said that they are saying that a new job that is about to be like in the market is creative engineers. And these are people
yeah.
who are engineering workflows using these tools. And yeah, I kind of want you to touch on what you think the importance of node-based editing is and what the unlock is for a lot of people.
Well, I think it solves a lot of problems just in the Gen AI space in a vacuum, right? Like we look at how many subscriptions do all of us have, right? Like we all have a million. And then the tab thing is really annoying, like, because I'm not doing one thing. If I'm going to ChatGPT, I'm creating a prompt, I'm copying it, I'm pasting it into another platform to generate an image. downloading that image, going to another platform to create a video, downloading that video, going to take it to another platform to edit it, right? Like it's more daunting than it's. I think people, they see the spaghetti strings and they get like really like, whoa, like this is tech, this isn't art. But just doing more things in one space. I've always was like, I wanted this. I wanted Photoshop to be like Figma in the beginning, right? Like I'm visual. I wanted to see all the things I'm working on at one time. I didn't want to just work on one thing in one tab, right? Figma comes along, great, awesome. I can work on multiple things in one space and I can do it collaboratively,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this sort of like the same sort of, to me, like the evolution. I was like, I don't want to go back and forth from place to place doing all these different things, this to this. I don't know where my download is. It went to my downloads folder. Did I save it in some other random folder? You can't search on Macs. You know, like it's, what did I
Mm-hmm.
name it? And it's so, to me, this whole node based thing is going to be way more sort of, I think, user friendly, because in general, we can use whatever the tool is needed and it can sort of push us towards tool agnostic. Like I don't have to choose what subscription I want because this might be the hottest thing of the month and now I have to subscribe. Then I forget about it and pay for 6 months. And then, oh crap, I have to go back and do that again and delete it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one space, multiple tools, use whatever tool is necessary for the job. And that's where what you guys are doing is just understanding all the tools, capabilities, what they can do, where the breaking points are. And then once you're at that point, it's like, well, how do I string them all together to get this stuff to either happen in one stream or one click? And
Mm-hmm.
you know, that one click mentality is definitely doesn't come naturally to most. Didn't come naturally to me right away. I had to like play around a lot and like sort of figure out, well, if I'm going to do this all with like basically downloading my brain of what my creative process would be and then turning it all into like a visual system laid out, that's how I have to go think about it. Because it's if you don't do that, then it's just like you're just kind of shooting into the night with no target. And it gets difficult. But you realize when you start to build this stuff that you've done this all before. You start
Yeah.
small and then you scale.
Yeah.
You know, you can create one prompt. Like, oh, if I can create one good prompt, that means I can create 10 good prompts. But how do I get that in one time? How do I take one prompt and then turn it into 10 more prompts? And then that goes into 10 images. So then that's how we start to get bigger and more sort of, and I think that's probably where everyone's going at some point, is like more batch creation than individualized creation. And that's my own opinion on it, though, is I like it now and
Yeah.
I can't live without it.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things when we did our Weavy module, we kind of talked about pros and cons. Pros is that you've got all of these tools localized in one place. But one of the main cons that I noted was that people, could become very reliant on it, because once you start, like, hate to say, it's kind of like crack, but everything is there. Everything you need is there. And like, there's no point in going anywhere else. So I'm seeing myself become more reliant on tools like Weavy. And now if I am to not use it, I just feel slow. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's one of those things which is quite interesting. So yeah, I guess that kind of leads us on to actually having a look at some workflows together.
To me, the one thing that's great about Weavy and all these node-based tools really is there's no like way to use it. You can do it however you want, right? You can use this as a collaborative space. You can use it as like a Miro board. You can use it as something that you can design in layers, like for static. You can go build an automation. You can go build something that's absolutely crazy. But like this is to me, because I'll sort of show you like the initial phases of this, of why I got excited, because it reminds me of working in Photoshop, but I'm just essentially history tracking, right? Like doing one thing at a time. I'm able to control a lot of different variables here. Like this is not mind-blowing example, but this is a thumbnail for our YouTube channel, right? Like you'd be like, oh, we look at that and be like, that's cool. Like that's a great prompt you probably did. It's like, well, I didn't, I don't want to get caught in this whole, like, let me find the perfect prompt. I'd rather just design like I'm used to. So anyone who has design background, right? Like I'm starting with characters here, and then we're branching, and I'm, creating different variations of the characters. I want them running, and I'm isolating them so that I can work on them individually instead of trying to do both of them in one image, right? So once they're in, removing the backgrounds, you can use tools, having all these tools available to you, which is great. Taking this as inspiration, basically style reference, like let's get the Scream character, let's put the boots on him, let's add the knife, let's remove the background, and then composite them all together, which if you guys aren't familiar, this is probably the differentiator between Weavy that got me early on was the compositor that can work, like a canvas, and you can move layers around in here. But this allows me to do things like character consistency between multiple characters and really have like an effect on it, right? So like something like this, I'm doing this every step here, which is, compositing them, putting them in an environment, changing the perspective. And then basically from the perspective, right? Like changing, where am I going here? Yep. Changing again, like dropping the character back in the frame. And then, changing the camera angle, going lower, then changing the color scheme to fit our sort of podcast aesthetic, going upscaling, and then down here, just adding, changing the text to be more typography based, removing the background, adding it in, formulating the text, and then, basically
Good
just
text
make
choices.
yeah, right. Like these are like this is not a one-click solution. This is just me working here in my own brain. Like this is just how to me I think about stuff because that's how I was sort of learned, right? It was do everything in layers, control this, move this. Like don't just regenerate. That was like the biggest challenge for me overall. Like
Right.
when everything started, right? It was like,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's an interesting one because like this is a obviously quite like a niche use case where you've, used this to design a thumbnail. Typically 99.9% of the world are designing thumbnails in Photoshop, but you've been able to compartmentalize each of these individual elements and then composite it all together using the compositor node. So that's like the real beauty about this is the degree of control that we have because that's what we want as creatives. So what other use cases do you see being like super advantageous with tool like with Weavy as a tool, especially for marketers? Because I think obviously you come from a marketing background and you've worked with some killer clients. So like what can marketers do with Weavy that we can't do anywhere else?
so I would say there's, I have a million different examples here, but like, here's something, for example, right? When I would work on like solving an initial problem, right? Like this was a problem for me a long time ago, which was I had to do mood boards a lot, right? And mood boards to me so unnecessary in terms of time. It's just you end up searching through for stuff more than you actually end up working on the mood board. So
Mm-hmm.
my thought process here was like thinking back to my designer days, like how could I do this and make this sort of function in one click? Like how do I get a one click mood board based on one image, right? So to start, like concepting this, if I can give any sort of advice on concepting, right? The thing about like building workflows like this is you have to understand what good output looks like first. So that's the ground, like that is the ground floor that you have laid already in the community, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
here's how to get good output. This is how we like replicate it and do it over and over again. Because like doing that, you have to work backwards then. Once you can get the good output, it's like, how do I get the output every time? How do I build like essentially a system prompt that can take my thinking around that and like always output a prompt that looks like that? And then what do I need to give it to then have it take that and then generate more prompts? So if you look at, I hope this thing will actually load. It looks like it's broken right now, of course, as we're on the as we're on here. But essentially, what this is a compositor, right? With all of the images for a mood board just stacked in here. I created it like this, but it basically flattens, right? So when I go into like app mode, and I'll break this, I'll go from the beginning. I just want to show you the end first,
Mm-hmm.
right? Basically, I would just input an image and then hit run. And then we just get 4 outputted mood boards, which of course don't want to show up here while we're doing this. They're probably doing maintenance on this thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Actually, this will be live. So like I just push enter and then I just get 4 mood boards based on the input image and what I controlled. So each one of these images that you're seeing here, this is all
Mm-hmm.
controlled, right? Like if I wanted to change any one of these images and the outputs consistently, I would just have to change the system prompt. But I'm saying here, like lifestyle photo. Here I want, sort of Pantones and swatch colors. Here I want a macro texture. Here's something I want a little bit more cinematic. Here's something I want, a little bit more, again, macro texture, maybe on the smoother side, or, hands in motion using product or like an apparel concept for this, right? So it's you'll see they're all kind of the same, right? Like we have
Mm-hmm.
the same sort of look and feel. Everything is sort of coming into this in the same way. But
Mm-hmm.
to show you what's happening here, right? That's what I want. I want to have just like a 12 box mood board that gets produced to me at the end. But
Mm-hmm.
to go through this, right? The whole idea is how do I take this image and then effectively, no click it, like, or no prompt it. So like the system prompt here is basically saying with this one, just like extract all these different elements from this image, right? So I'm saying like I want, just like you would do for, if you're trying to deconstruct any sort of image or sort of like photo, things like that. Want to get like the visual shape, the core functionality, the purpose, the design materials, the hex color extraction, the conditions and the staging, and then like the output format, which is basically I want to have it write me like a essentially a brief, right? Like this is like a brief on the style components that it extracted, and the
Mm-hmm.
hex colors. Then I'm having another system prompt, right? Which this is actually running through. This one's running through Gemini Flash, so we're just basically having this image attached in here. This is the
Do you
system
want to
prompt.
explain what you mean by system prompt?
Yeah, sure. So if anyone's familiar with custom GPTs, you're basically bringing a custom GPT into the workflow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like instead of going to your custom GPT on Chat GPT, you're just taking the system prompt from that, which basically says do this every time exactly like this, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a very structured, similar answer. I'll show you one that's probably a little bit more simple to
Mm-hmm.
digest, but it's one that's something that's a little bit more complex first. Um,
So is
so
it
this
like
one,
to make it super simple? It's like a list of instructions that it has to follow.
correct. Custom
Okay.
instructions, do this every time. Basically, that's how I think about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So any photo I give you, do this every time. And that's the sort of like the beauty of system prompts, and the complex thing is making them generic enough to work for a lot of different things, but also making them specific enough to do exactly what you want. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, like with this one, right? It's going to feed that we're using the NELLM like it's ChatGPT. I'm giving it an image and I'm giving it a system prompt saying do this every time, which is extract all the values from this and then basically output what I'm looking for. The other system prompt here is I actually have this running on two system prompts. Again, this is very complex. I'll go to an easier one after this. This one is basically like, here's the 12 distinct, like take this information, which is the hex colors and the overall look and feel. And then I want you to generate 12 visual prompts or 12 prompts based on X categories, right?
Can
So we
you
want to
zoom in
have,
just a little bit, because so we
oh yeah.
can read the text?
So we want to have
There you
basically, right, given it like 12 distinct visual prompts aligned with the following mood board categories. We want to preserve the lighting and color palette, prioritize the color matching, focus on the fine details, all these things that you'd probably think about in your prompting. Then giving it some rules, like each
go.
prompt should be between 200, 300 tokens, separate each with a star here. I'll show you this in another one as to why that's important. But here's like the prompts in order, right? I want to do one, like sort of a category, right? Like a color atmosphere, an anchor scene, product photography, surface and texture. Like you can go and change any of these. So if you don't want surface and texture and you want it to be like, I don't know, something more like an art piece or something like that, right? You can do that. If you want it to be, emotional resonance piece, setting environment. So basically just giving it categories to fill out. And then I'm having these limitations here. Is like one thing I could say for when you start doing batch processing, this piece right here, only provide the prompt, no additional context, right? This is
Okay.
important because if you don't, it'll do like that whole thing when it outputs the prompt, like, hey, I created 15 prompts for you. Do you have any other
Right,
questions?
right.
Like,
Yeah.
if that's going to run directly into an image generator, that's going to screw it up. So you got to sort of like engineer some of this stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
this is the design language, which essentially is your prompt. This is saying how and what to prompt. And then this is saying down here how to structure the prompt. So I'm basically giving it a prompt formula, right? Which is like,
Mm-hmm.
do this, if subject, composition, cinematography, the lens effects, visual details, style, text elements, camera settings. Again, same sort of instructions here. So that these will then, you'll see this here. You can batch process 12 really long prompts that all happen at one
Damn.
time, right? Which is nice because I don't want to sit here and run all those. And
Mm-hmm.
then where they go to is this array thing, which is basically a split, where it just takes each one of these prompts and splits them into individual prompts so you can run them and isolate them, which is like, okay, here I go to this list selector. I can select any one of them, but typically I just go in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These then get run to each individual image node. So I'm running, you could do this with one image generator. I did it with 4. Just wanted to see which one did it
Mm-hmm.
better. So I did one with Mystic. I did a full run with ChatGPT. Did one run with Imagen. Did one with Flux 1.1 Ultra. And then I was going to build these out, but apparently this is broken now. So that's how, this turns in from start to finish, one click mood board, right? Like I spent
Mm.
an hour concepting this and building it. And, now I can just run any image through it and go ahead and rip.
So that's all we have time for on YouTube, but if you want to go and watch the rest of this, then you can click the first link in the YouTube description. GenHQ is the world's largest creative AI education platform where we share educational content on all of the best creative AI tools. We also have interviews with some of the top 1% of AI creatives from all around the world. The entire goal of GenHQ is to make you a top 1% AI creative, so if you want to check it out, click the first link in our description and we'll see you in there.